morning is going to be a fantastic podcast. Empowerment. We're talking about empowerment with Paisley Madison. You're going to say, Paisley Madison? Who is Paisley Madison? So get ready, because this is going to be a ripper, particularly talking about the internal world when we're talking about empowering the internal world. Paisley, thanks so much for agreeing to be on this podcast.
No problem. I'm glad that we've connected. Looking forward to it.
Well, we met via a mutual friend, Jane Wishaw, is a journalist, who introduced me to Maria Halphen, and Maria Halphen has then introduced me to you. Maria, I did a podcast with Maria last week talking about meeting for minds, and you and I, once we met, I said, I've got to talk to Paisley. We've got to capture what's going on inside that mind of hers and what she's up to. So thanks for being here. So Paisley, firstly, tell us the Paisley Madison story. Where have you come from and what drives Paisley Madison if we're talking about empowerment?
So I guess in a nutshell, I'm always somebody who follows my gut instincts. And I guess that's a great example of how we met, right? It's just one thing leads to another. And so for me, the whole empowerment has been to truly know who I am, my values, and just to stick by that. And that's always led me in the right direction, making the right connections. So my background it actually started in consumer behavior and marketing. So I had a marketing background. Yeah. And that was really driven by my undergraduate studies, which was in philosophy and psychology. So I've always been someone who is deeply fascinated in terms of my own psychology, and then also what makes people tick. So why do we do what we do? And, how do we come to make different decisions and choices in our life?
So marketing.
Yeah. And so that kind of led me into marketing, or I guess going through a traditional uni structure. I sort of thought that looks kind of about right. Why do we consume what we consume? And, in terms of all of the things like our clothes, our food. And so with marketing, I actually ended up launching my own business, working online. And I was in the digital age. So, doing social media, digital strategies, helping people understand their ideal audience and how that translated online. So I started working with lots of wellness brands because that was just my general interest. So different Pilates studios, wellness hubs, skincare, all different natural brands is where I began the journey. And funnily enough, by working with lots of small businesses just in my local city, I realized that if the business didn't work, it was because the individual didn't work. So it was kind of like, well, you don't really necessarily have a business problem. I just don't think you know who you are yet, or, what you're interested in, and you are leading this business. So from that psychology background, it sort of I ended up deep diving with that individual to help them better understand, okay, well, what's driving you and how do you want to lead? What do you want to create? And, it's got to be a value. And if you want that longevity, you want to be invested. So why do you really want to do this?
All the very big questions. I love what you just said then. If the business didn't work, it's probably because you're not working. And you don't mean physically working. You mean working psychologically, mentally. Again, whether it be Tony Robbins, a whole range of people say, 80% of your success is psychology. And my business partner, Gary, said it's not 80% of your success. It's 100% of your success, because if you haven't got the psychology right, then you're not even going to bother, as you say, investing in yourself, let alone investing in the future of the business. So if the business is not working, you're not working. Well, that's an interesting confront challenge psychologically with someone right there and then. You clearly got to develop enough rapport to get to the point of going, you know what, let me give you the truth, and the truth as in my truth. So that's interesting. You've gone from social media, digital marketing, but as you worked on it, you could see that really, which again, my business partner, Gary, has talked about that. It's all very well, Lee, doing strategic planning or sales or management consulting. But he said, you know what? You're actually water skiing across the surface, because you've used the term deep dive. You need to actually deep dive on, but the person needs to be able to be willing to deep dive on themselves. So when you're working with someone, what do you do? What's your thinking around getting the person to a point where they're willing to do a deep dive?
Well, I think by the time that, and again, I believe in the sort of synchronicity of natural connections, in the same way that we've been connected, in the same way I was connected to Maria. And so I find that if I've been connected with someone, whether that's for their own for a business or for another sort of, I guess, problem that they feel they've encountered, they're already open. They already have a willingness. But how they might, or what strategy they might think I'm giving them isn't necessarily where I'm going to take them. And so they might come in saying, well, I need you to help me unblock this. And I'm like, well, actually, it's more like this angle, but let's have a look. So I find that people are naturally open to having a look at that. And then probably it's a bit of empathy and compassion in terms of how you deliver that information to someone. Sure. So that, it's not something that's shocking or harsh. It's kind of like, well, actually, we want the same thing. We share the same vision. So let's have a look at how we can make that happen.
Great. So the question that's going through my mind is, so how did Paisley Madison go from marketing with an interest in, so where have you done your training, or where do you, obviously, because coaching and being able to deep dive and being able to, obviously deal with the internal world, you must have done some either development on your own or some coach. So what training, what exposure, whether it be readings and obviously what have you done in terms of your own deep diving?
Yeah, well, I've been driven like this from a very young age. And so as a child, I was really interested in different religion and not necessarily following the doctrine, but actually, why do all these people meet and what are these different rules and interests? And so from a very young age, I was interested in, my family had me in a Catholic environment, and not that they were religious, but, it was a good school, so you should probably go there. And for me, I just thought, what is this structure? This is so fascinating. And then I also started looking into the Buddhist religion. And so for me, from a very young age, I noticed that there was this sort of underlying universal truth in things. And I thought, okay, well, these are totally different concepts, totally different structures, but actually there's a sort of truth here. And so that got me really fascinated in just wanting to understand how principles work. What is the ultimate version of truth? And then again, like I mentioned, I sort of at university went into to philosophy and psychology. So I just tried to expand upon that. I personally think the philosophy has maybe been more helpful than the psychology, because it's understanding the way that you think. It's thinking about thinking and the quality of our thinking. And that comes through at university level by, having different debates or understanding the mechanics of an argument and how to debate for and against, but really come to an ultimate conclusion about what angle you want to take. So that sort of critical thinking and that training is really what led me to sort of have a big picture view on my own life and also other people as well. Okay, well, what's really going on here and what's the way you're thinking about this? Because there's many different angles that we can have a look at. But ultimately, you're just wanting to find the one that you can move forward on that resonates and works for you.
Well, let's talk coaches and mentors, because clearly on your website, your meditation and Buddhism is all very well studying these things. Who have you been exposed to? What courses have you done in terms of, you learning and developing and immersing yourself in these knowledges and practices?
So obviously with the foundation of my training was with the Catholic religion, and that was through prayer. And that was the first time I actually started to understand the mechanics of self-talk, which was really, when you think about going to church, take away the sort of hard beliefs while you sit with someone in a non-judgmental environment and you talk to them. That's basically counseling. You start to sit in prayer and repeat affirmation. And so I just started to realize what made me feel good. And what those simple practices. Then I went to, to have a look at Buddhism, and there's a few different centers here in Perth, but there's also lots of things online. And I just started to self-reflect and meditation. So sitting with a candle and actually just sitting there and being my own experiment, which I'm really big on. It's about creating that space for you to just be, to see what arises and having that natural curiosity. From there, in my early 20s, I met Melanie Ryan, who runs the Institute of Applied Consciousness. And I started to look at ITA, which is Integrated Therapeutic Alignment, which is the modality that she studies. She is a fourth generation energy worker that hails from the Canary Islands. And so her entire perspective on meditation and energy medicine is that it's all energy. And what are the actual mechanics behind that? Energy can't be created or destroyed. It simply changes form. Well, that is so fascinating when we think about our emotional world, when we think about, how we want to make change. So I studied with her for quite a long time, and her form of meditation is called Mahat meditation. And so for people who are not knowing what energy medicine is, it looks at some of the energetic structure like chakras, meridians, traditional Chinese philosophy around our ability to self-heal or self-generate. So that led me deeper into a practice, and it also put me in a community of people who were willing to challenge assumptions and beliefs and sort of expand their way of thinking. You'd sit there and somebody might talk about, I don't know, a concept that you think, wow, that is pretty far out, but okay, let's have a look. Let's get curious. What could be possible here? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
So what does a day in the life of you look like? What does a day in the life of Paisley Madison look like? We're talking about empowerment, both empowering yourself and empowering others. What time does your day start, and how does your day go?
Yeah, well, one thing that I've sort of developed for a very long time is discipline. And I think that discipline is really important just in terms of us being, well, for me, being able to regulate my thinking and also regulate my mood so that I actually feel good. Because when I feel good, I'm much more likely to be inspired and receive more creative thoughts and be more strategic. So for me, I like to get up early because I just feel that I have more potential in the day if I can actually.
What time is early?
Early is about 5:30.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And in summer, it's like I like to get up when, the world is awake and things are happening. So 5 to 5:30. Mm-hmm. And that time is for me usually just to enjoy ritual. So for me, I like to get up, not move straight out of the house, but perhaps, have a cup of coffee, put some music on, I light some incense, and I just sort of ease my way into getting up. From there, in that first sort of half an hour, after that first half an hour, I like to get out the doors and go into nature. Mm-hmm. So for me, living by the coast, that's the beach. And that just gets me sort of out of my head. It gets me connected to nature. And that's that big picture, it's just nature's perfect. And I just think there's nothing more inspiring than nature. And so for the last 15 years, I've sort of looked for communities that are around that element of nature. So meditation or beach boot camp, I've joined at some points. Lots of hospitality venues on the beach always build great morning communities. And so that is like my natural high, which I know you fully get. So, ease in, wake up, nice, get out in nature, be around some buzz, some people who have energy and start to generate different thoughts. So that's my true coffee, I guess.
Yeah. And then I note on your website, you've got one-to-one sessions, you've got a group sessions, you're running meditation classes. Tell us a bit about what's going on with that website and what you're doing to help people in terms of empowerment.
Yeah. So it's all around meditation is the key ingredient that I truly believe. I also think that meditation isn't just sitting with your eyes closed. There's lots of ways that you can remain in that beautiful space of mindfulness and meditation throughout the day. So on the Monday morning, I start with the Momentum Club, which is it's a community of individuals who like to get up and meditate and also self-reflect and journal. So for me, that's been a key ingredient in understanding where I'm at, what's going on, what's actually in here, and putting it on paper. So basically that was just a habit and a hobby that I've done for a very, very long time, and decided I should probably share this with others because I've formed a great discipline, but communities really work, and good habits work through accountability. So interestingly enough, there's a whole group of healthcare workers who serve others who come into that Monday morning to actually fill their own cup. So that's the Monday morning. I work one-on-one. So 3 days a week I work in clinic, and that's back-to-back with clients. And they're about an hour and a half time slots where, we actually look at, well, what is it that you're wanting to achieve and what's happening for you? And let's deep dive into some of the, the belief systems. Let's have a look at what's not working. I say I focus a lot with addiction and addiction studies. So we say it's like, you might have a my life's not working problem. Let's pull it apart. Let's have a good look and think about how you want to rebuild it. And life is always changing. It's never stagnant. So that's sort of I guess, my day to day. And I also work with different programs and different charities like Meeting for Minds, and also the Healthy Mind menu. I'll jump on board if it's in the mental well-being space and look at, okay, again, how can we set up some cool initiatives, whether that be group support and sort of consult in those areas as well.
You're giving. I like that, which, as you say, the health workers, I was literally talking to one of the guys I swim with who's a doctor, and he said he's just got some coaching from a life coach. I said, what? And I kind of said, well, I wonder why you didn't talk to me. He said, well, actually what this is, it's an ex-doctor that suffered from burnout. And this guy is in Oregon in the US, and he specializes in coaching other doctors, hoping that they don't get burnout. As you say, healthcare workers are giving. And if they're not doing things to fill up their own cup, then a whole lot of other things can be going wrong, not the least of which you don't want them going off, self-medicating with alcohol and other things. So just realizing that, one, they do need to find ways to fill up, as you literally say, I love that concept, filling up your own cup, replenishing your own energy. So in terms of, let's just give me some tips that you would give people on meditation and journaling. If you're talking about empowerment and self-empowerment and empowering every day, what are some tips you would give people in terms of, firstly, meditation, and then secondly, how that links with journaling?
So my number one philosophy is be your own experiment. And there's so many ways that we can journal, and there's so many ways that we can actually meditate. So first of all, get it out of our heads that we think there's the best way to do it or the right way to do it. And so with journaling and with meditation, just begin to play, and playing is the best way to think about it, because there's no rules. You're shifting things, you're learning, you're finding what feels fun, what's interesting, what sparks curiosity, because when something feels good, we're much more likely to stick with it. When there's no sort of expectation about how it should be, well, there's no barriers to entry. It's like, I can just sit on the beach, I can just lay in bed and start to experiment with self-study, which is what it is. The key is to really carve out a time, and I'm really big with the discipline of routine. So, pulling out your week and actually being realistic with, well, where can I actually place this? Because the consistency is so important. And not only that, life is actually, quite busy, and there are a lot of things that kind of come in and can distract. So in order to start to attempt to create a new habit and to put that into your day, well, realistically, where can it go? And then just committing to that kind of time slot. So if you schedule that out for the Monday morning, or, on Wednesday at 7 p.m., that's where, after dinner, that's where you're going to put this in. Well, make sure that you hold that space, because if that doesn't happen, that's where things start to go away. And then secondly, depending on where you want to find your information, it could be signing up to a course, and that's where you use that time slot for journaling or meditation. Or it could be that you just start, even in that space, you just start Googling and just going on and actually having a look at, YouTube meditations, or, so first of all, just spark that curiosity, start to see what's out there and what people are connecting with, because you'll find something that resonates, and then you can go deeper into that practice.
Well, as they say, we spend more time focusing on outer space than we do on inner space. More money's been spent going to the moon rather than, hang on, take a look, what is actually going on in this space internally. And I love the concept, as you say, it's all energy. It's all energy. We say with people, you don't manage people, you manage energy, because their bodies could be at work or a sporting team or a family, but what's their energy doing? And not the least of which then is what alignment of energy is there in terms of synchronized energy. Buckminster Fuller's synchronized energy, synergy. And as you say, consistency, which is why we say everyday empowerment. What are you doing systematically every day? I love the Aristotle quote, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. What are you doing habitually? Well, that's what we talk about, deliberate practice. So here you're talking about, the consistency and the rules and regimen. And if you join, again, we talk about ecosystem, like Freddie, my doctor mate, says, I talk about we are a positive ecosystem at PodSquad. But, any community you want to create a positive ecosystem, you want an ecosystem of positive energy to do that. So the other thing we often talk about is leaders are readers. So are you a reader or a listener? How do you go about constantly, replenishing or topping up or learning or stretching your own mind?
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting. I probably didn't read a full novel until I was in my early 20s. God knows how I got through most of my schooling and university. I just was so disinterested and I'm probably someone who maybe had dyslexia, but it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's like we adapt, and there's a lot of positive adaptations when we're curious. So I think for most of my life, I've been somebody who just asks questions and leans in. And I like to learn through that's why I think be your own experiment. I just try to, I'll get close to someone who I think is doing something right, and I'll start asking questions. What is it that you're doing? And so for me, it's really the practical component of practicing asking questions. Now, I've got a whole ton of books, and I think the art of practicing meditation has helped me learn how to actually focus. But I love learning through listening. So for me, I can just I am a bit of a multitasker, and I will just be listening in and just grabbing onto different things that kind of spark. So I use Audible, and I listen to lots of audiobooks through there. And, things like Masterclass, which is now, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, it's an app. Again, it's got lots of different individuals sort of distilling their concepts of life or what they've mastered or what they love. And then again on YouTube. So I might kind of deep dive down the rabbit hole and stumble across someone and just hyper focus on that for a few months to really understand what it is that they're doing that, brings them success. And then, like lots of things, I'll kind of try things on for size, see what works for me, and then find my own way of doing that.
Fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
Hand picking things. Yeah.
Very, very well. I would have thought now that I don't know if you know much about NLP, but they're talking about visual, auditory, kinesthetic people, and auditory people who learn through listening, often have very good voices. And I when I first heard your voice, because I'm quite auditory myself, and I went, "What a good voice she's got!" She could do radio. This voice,
I have heard that actually. You should do radio.
Yeah. Well, you got that voice, But let's come back. Because at Everyday Empowerment Institute, we spend a lot of time helping people in business, because we also say there can be no true empowerment without financial empowerment. People being able to either make money, manage money. I'm not saying it's all about money, of course, but as you say, this incredible connection between the inner world and the outer world. And here's the person coming to you talking about how help me with my business. And you're saying, well, in fact, we need to help you with you before business. Yeah. Can you think of, without obviously talking about names and businesses, give me a little story or a case study or an example of someone where they've come to you maybe to talk about a business problem or a money problem. And then you've taken them on a journey internally and what's been the outcome? Can you think of someone?
Well, I mean, I can probably bring it right back to myself, and my own money journey with understanding, energy and how that works. And I think, again, like everything, and even with meditation, you don't just do it. There's a reason why we do it. There's actually something that we're looking at working with. We don't just sit for no reason and just, okay, well, that was good non-thinking. It doesn't really work like that. There's actually a goal. And money is also a form of energy. And so I think for a long time in my early 20s, when I was running my own business, it was kind of like, why aren't I making money? Or why is it going in and out? And I'm living week to week, and I'm doing all these things, and my price is right. I've got a good rate, a good project rate, but where is it going? But actually, coming back and looking at the input and the output as well. Like, I'm someone who gives a lot, and so always giving, but I wasn't necessarily giving back to myself. So what does that look like at a financial level? I was not reinvesting.
As in financially, in terms of your own learning, you mean, or what?
Yeah, well, even reinvesting back into my own business. It was like money coming in and then money actually going out to other things, whether that be entertainment or, money going out in terms of other projects or going to see other people. Again, if I was looking at that from an energetic level, I was somebody who wasn't filling my own cup. I wasn't reinvesting, putting that money actually back into my business, which was something that I also needed to grow. Yeah. So, again, you can, just by looking at the belief systems, you can really see, well, what's your money doing? What do you believe? And what's the pattern of actually how you give and then how you give back?
Yeah, brilliant. What you got me thinking here, I'm just going to share with you one of our models that we use at Everyday Empowerment Institute. We literally talk about the ladder of business evolution. So this is it here. We talk about, can you see the screen there?
Yeah.
Level 1 is non-existence, where it's just an idea. The business is just an idea, and then you've got it up and running, but you're in danger and even emergency until you've got regular cash flow. And obviously levels 2 and 3 are the most dangerous, because not level 4 is you're now consistently making a profit, let alone getting to the point of, okay, I can now power changes where I can literally exit the business or walk away from it, and it's going to pay me an ongoing dividend. So we ask people, where are you at with your business? And you're saying this here, attitude to money and reinvesting, is critical in danger and emergency, and certainly in and around marketing. And so we actually say the business is very much like a baby, and it needs nurturing, and it needs food, and it needs oxygen, and it needs caring. And if all you're doing, particularly a danger and emergency, is taking but not reinvesting, as in feeding it, particularly feeding it with marketing, not just with time, it's almost like the marketing is the oxygen, that it needs leads, and it needs new inquiry. So you, having done the work with social media, the people, they want their business to grow, but they haven't invested in the actual oxygen of the business, which is the marketing and the lead generation. So what were you doing in those early days in terms of your own business? What did you do differently when you said you weren't investing and then you started to invest? What did you do differently there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it took a little while. And I think as well, if I look back in sort of my early 20s, it probably wasn't even my goal. I think that was later on where I started to realize, but even at that time, I was a sort of digital nomad, so I could work from anywhere. And so what I really valued was travel. And so for me, I was just getting flight here and getting a flight there, but putting the money in the wrong direction, but kind of having those blind spots and then going, why doesn't it work? Why is there not, more money coming in, or just those sorts of, just basically that. So the major pivot was looking at, how do I actually value my time, and how do I actually start to value my expertise, and looking at what sort of model would be the right fit for me. So for example, the Monday morning that I do in that group is one of the best services that I can offer, because working one-to-one is really, huge chunks of my time. And so just even understanding that concept on how to actually provide value and looking at what the right rate would be. So with Monday, it's the smallest price point, but actually there's a huge group of people, which then is one of the biggest chunks of money sort of coming in for me each week, where it's, $10 a class, but, 100 people that you can get in, and then that just creating so much more freedom. Then taking that money and, not just having it as money that I can spend, but actually money, taking that and reinvesting it back in. Reinvesting it looked like upgrading different servers to automate the business, so the business is running more fluidly, as opposed to still thinking I should be doing everything. I should be all parts of the business. I should, give here and give there and give there, and,
Well, that's the principle.
That's the burnout.
That's the principle of leverage and scaling, which of course, it's like essentially leverage Archimedes. If I had a lever long enough and a fulcrum strong enough, I could move the world. It's like, how do I do, and Buckminster Fuller called it ephemeralization. How do I do everything with nothing? It's like, how do I have the maximum impact for the minimal expenditure of my energy? And so, whether you're talking McDonald's or any business, how do I get 1,000? How do I impact 1,000 people with the same or less energy than I was impacting one? And as you say, so clearly 100 people, that's obviously over the internet. Then the class is over the internet. It's not 100 people in the pitch, is it?
Yeah, over the internet. Yeah, and just making it bite size, and then again getting really clear with actually what is it that my business is here to achieve. And that business being me. What is it that I'm actually here to share? What is it that really works for me, that I can actually be assistance to other people? So really getting that connection where then I'm truly believe in what I'm doing, because I am client number one.
Yes.
And so then, and then being able to share that. So staying connected, I think, even in the past, I probably would have, and I could see this with other businesses, well, I'm going to create this. This is a great idea. Well, number one, do you even use that product, or do you even use it every single day? Do you really back it? And then number two, kind of, watching myself or others get focused on the price point rather than actually going, well, that's such a distraction, getting too caught up with that. Because, like you said, there's ways that you can really maximize that impact where the price can be something other than it is, or there's so much more flexibility, like that $10, when I set that up, I go, that's way too cheap. But actually that it's not, it's the perfect price point for people. And I really think that's the right value where people can jump in and get the most out of that and have the most impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, blue ocean strategies. How do I maximize value? How do I maximize value at the same time, stand out? So look, Paisley, fantastic stuff, because you're making a great impact with people in your own personal energy. As you say, you're topping up your own cup to then that energy. I just love it. It is all energy. And then how do I catalyze energy and activate energy and unblock? And again, the last 2 years, we've got more and more where we actually, in our case at Everyday Empowerment Institute, when we're coaching and working with people, be they one-on-one or small groups or large groups, we're using meditation more and more, firstly, to visualize the future, because as Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And where do you create it? But you create it internally in the internal world first before you create it in the external world. So we use meditation for visualization, and we then use meditation to embed the lessons and the activities. So when people are setting blueprints for the next 7 days or 90 days, we then use that to immerse them so they're already living it as is. That whole make it positive, make it present, make it personal. And so then we've got people doing, as you say, first thing in the morning, I want them meditating using their goals as affirmations. So it's not, I want this to happen in 6 months.
Yeah.
It's happening now. So we actually create that as is present time vibration. And besides all of that, as you know, once a person starts practicing some meditation, even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, we know their anxiety level, their emotional upset level reduces. So a fellow we're doing some work with down in Albany, even his voice is lowered. There's less anxiety and pitch in his voice, and there's a greater calmness even in his voice, which is quite incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, you can really see the physical transformations in someone. Yeah. Look,
so Paisley, is there anything I haven't asked you'd like to share with people before we wind up?
I guess just thinking about the meditation, I 100% agree with that. And that's something that I incorporate in my daily practice. So I like the meditation where you're thinking, bringing something into the present moment. I also do that through journaling, through scripting. And that's something that I've seen the success and it works, where, again, you can not only visualize through meditation, but you can script writing it down in the present moment. And a big part of, a business is based on your self-worth and self-value and what you really think you deserve and what you really think you can have. And so by even scripting that into the moment, I'm already here, my business is making this much and it feels so good. And, I wake up and this is what my day looks like. Even by finding the time to write that down can be really challenging. When I give that to clients, they're like, oh, I feel like I can't write that. And I'm like, well, there you go. Isn't that fascinating? It's like, I really desire this and I want this, but I can't even write it in the present moment like I've got it. So what's holding me back from that? So that's scripting. And then even once you've written that script, you'll realize, actually, if I already have that right now, there's already so much more that I could go from there if that was what I've got right now. And so you can almost see the layers to what we're willing to accept based on our own self-worth and what we truly think we can have.
Absolutely.
So, and then bringing that script then into meditation. Because one of the challenges is, once, somebody is focused on that for their business and that sort of layer of self-worth, this is really what I'm wanting to create for myself. Once they go into that, they might actually recognize that's not really what I want. Or once I get there, actually, I was hoping it would be more like this. And so they bring it, they make manifest what they're wanting to create, but then sort of realize probably not the right angle. I just thought I had to go from here to there rather than from here all the way straight up to what it is they want to create. So always start general. I always say with your vision or your scripting, start general if you're not really sure exactly what that looks like. And then the more that you practice bringing that into the present moment, whether it's through scripting, journaling, or through that visualization technique, then the more detail will come. And so also the practice of meditation and journaling is knowing more and more and more who I am and what I want and getting clear on those details. So the result is that clarity that comes. I truly know exactly what it is I'm wanting to create here. And that's the potency. That's what sort of skims out the crap, either side that can be very distracting. There's not that many options. There's one thing that I'm going for, and it's going to be that. And I'm going to make it happen and find a way to do it. And that's where creativity comes in. If that's exactly where I'm focused and I know that's exactly what I'm creating,
Well, that's why we say clarity today for growth tomorrow. The more you can, like literally the magnifying glass with the ray from the sun, focusing that energy, that you become literally the magnifying glass with laser beam focus, how that immediately transforms life. And then as you do, because the other thing about the meditation is what you're doing with the affirmations and the meditation is you are developing new neural pathways.
Yeah.
And here where we're talking particularly about business and money and price, how invariably we say in business, in most cases, in 99% of cases, the seller, the business person has more problem with price than the buyer, because the buyer's buying
so much so. So much so. Yeah.
And as you say, your past conditioning around money, what did mummy and daddy say about money? How hard was money to come by for mummy and daddy? In my case, my mother and father were both pensioners. My dad had been ill from the age of early 30s. So in our house, we grew up every day. Money's hard to come by. It doesn't grow on trees, Liz. Like you're immersed in this scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
Whereas I was literally saying, I've got a friend in our water polo club, who's a good friend of mine, have $1 billion worth of property under management. And in his head, which is going too far, because everything can be fixed with money. Well, that's not true, of course, but he's got his own problems with that. But in his case, the other side of it is, if there's a problem, we just go earn more money. Like it's not, oh my God, how do you earn? What do you mean? How do you earn more money? Money doesn't grow on trees. What you do is you just go and do another deal and you make more money. Like it's such the vibration he has around how do you earn more money? Well, I do A, B, and C, and you talk to 5 people and you end up with more money. And like it's that level of ease and flow, and you just go, wow, what an internal operating system around money. But as you say, it starts with self-talk and your relationship with money to then say, well, why am I? Well, in your case, as you say, if it's $10 times 100 people, then it's like, well, how can I get 200 people?
That's
so it's
right.
either $15 and 100, or it's 10 and 200.
Yeah.
And as you say, what percentage of that $100 is committed to reinvesting
That's
in
right.
the business? So we know, let's just take McDonald's, for example, there's a set percentage of turnover goes back into marketing. I think in their case, it's something like 7 or 8 or 10%. But it's so if everybody operated that way, that said, okay, out of every $100 or $1,000 I earn, 50, 100, 200, we know, of course, you can throw money away, but what's that great line? 50% of my advertising works. I just don't know which 50%. Which, of course, these days with the internet and Google, it's getting much easier to know which percentage work. There's much more accuracy around that. So, but here that the power of inner rewiring, meditation and journaling in and around prosperity and wealth and value. And we also say, by the way, all communication is an exchange of energy.
That's right.
All communication is an exchange of energy. So when you are in a meeting talking to a prospective client, they are experiencing your energy.
That's right.
They're already experiencing level of confidence, value, certainty, positivity. And so it's how do I, because we talk about conscious everyday empowerment, how do I consciously convey value, certainty, confidence? And again, we coach and train people in those areas of managing their energy so that that's what's conveyed. And invariably, when you do that, people are buying your energy. Go, I just want whatever they've got.
That's right. And that's why, even for myself, when I wake up in the morning, there's mornings where I wake up and, there might be self-doubt, or there's low energy, or I don't know why I'm doing this, or what am I doing again? Or I start to think maybe I'm on the grind, like, oh, here we go again, work, does it ever end? It's relentless. And as soon as I can see myself going into one of those holding patterns, I will not leave the house until I have sorted or taken responsibility for that. And that requires sitting in that meditation until I really have located the place where I suddenly have that confidence, or that assurance that I know exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing and it's of value. Because otherwise that's probably the most defeating thing that can sabotage all the relationships that I've made, right? So again, it's sitting until I'm in a place of self-support and a place of self-belief, and then going out to the world and making connections that are high value, that I truly believe resonate. And that's, again, we talk about money, but you can amplify the amount of energy that you have through great collaboration.
Yes. Yes. So the people, again, your ecosystem, an ecosystem of collaboration helps you lift, which is the old 1 + 1 being 3 or 10. But you use the word responsibility, which is critical. We actually have a whole model on, we call it the pain performance line, the line of responsibility there. And, one, I am responsible for my life. I own my behavior. I own my results, versus I'm a victim. We talk about being an architect of your future, not a victim of the future. And so here you're literally saying, I'm not walking out the door until I've taken full responsibility for my behavior and shifting.
That's right. Energy. Yeah. And recognizing, and like you said, when you talk about that shift up, for me, that's going until I recognize that I am the creator of this experience, that I'm actually in control. And no good decisions have come from me coming from that powerless place, as if there's somebody who has more authority over my life than me. So I will stay in that place until I recognize that I'm the creator of this. And that's where that self-worth comes from, to be able to, for example, ask for the right amount of money, or position something in the correct way, or truly believe that, to find the right partnerships, because there is no greater authority. There is no one above. It's just we're either resonating and collaborating, or perhaps we're not, and that's okay too. And so, you can just move much more fluidly in that place of power, I guess, self-power. Yeah,
empowerment. No good decisions come from a place of victim.
No.
Fantastic. Paisley, thanks so much. How do people get in contact with you?
Through my Instagram, which is Paisley Madison. I'm pretty active on there. That's definitely an extension. So, even my mum, I think, tries to call me through there. And then also my website, paisleymadison.com.
Fantastic. Paisley, thanks so much for your time this morning. And then we'll be collaborating on a whole range of things over the next 6 months with the meeting for minds and your beach meditation and World Mental Health Week and a whole range of things. So thanks for being here this morning, and we look forward to working with you, empowering people way more than groups of 100. Let's get them into 1,000 and see what happens then, eh?
That's right. We just start and we continue, and it's exponential growth. We all know the compound effect of a good thing. So
thanks, Paisley. All the very best.
See you later. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.